Thanks very much, Chair. I just want to start with the issue of private care, which you rightly identify as a huge cost for Tusla. Figures I was given recently, 63% of young people in residential settings are in private residential units. That's a huge financial burden. We see a growth in private fostering placements who have a significant marginal cost to Tusla as well. These are essentially built in many cases. The opportunity to place kids in these things is built on the fact that Tusla struggles with recruitment of foster carers. So if the Minister could give us some information on what's being done to reduce that private residential care and that private fostering bill, the steps being taken for Tusla to meet its own recruitment. I would also then like to say, just echo the Minister's words, the conversion of agency staff was a positive. There's also been a lot of investment by Tusla, which I think should be acknowledged in relation to investment in mobile working, which has facilitated social workers it actually reflects the rhythm of a social worker's chaotic day, but it also was a major thing to enable them to continue working during COVID. So I think those two need to be singled out as positive steps. But again, the issue, the Minister gets it right there, the issue is not the recruitment, it's the turnover. So what are we doing about the turnover? What are we doing about improving the conditions for social workers? And part of this is about the fact that Tusla is still stuck in firefighting. If we look at the number of unallocated cases and things like that, we're still, and the struggle of early intervention, we're still stuck in firefighting. And I'm conscious that before he retired, and he was about 2 CEOs ago, Gordon Jeyes wrote a memo to Cabinet saying without proper funding, Tusla would struggle to meet its statutory requirement. And I think, we've seen in the intervening years it has struggled to do that. So I would hope that with the next budget it can actually start achieving those things. I also want to pick just on the key outputs and public service activities in the estimates. And I must say that I feel they're measuring the wrong things if we're trying to measure the success of Tusla. One of the things in here we're measuring is the percentage of children across all care settings to have a care plan. And I understand the idea behind that, but the reality is that I've seen cases where children will be allocated a social worker, a care plan will be done, and then that social worker will move on to another child to do just a care plan. So it's not necessarily a marker of stability of placement. Equally, we see an approval rate for relative foster carers, but what we should be looking at is an aim to recruit more foster carers, an aim to recruit more relative foster carers. There are parts of Northern Ireland where relative foster carers, kinship carers, eclipse regular general foster carers. And look, that's part of a broader thing. But by measuring simply the approval rate, we're kind of missing huge issues in there. We should be looking at issues like the turnover of social workers, not just the recruitment, but how many left. And the reason many are still with us is because they can't travel to Australia because of COVID. The number of educational placements, number of children in education would be a better marker of stability of placements and the success of Tusla. Equally, the number of placement moves. And then, I'm just conscious of all my time slipping away, if the Minister could give us an update on the timeline for a replacement strategy for better outcomes, please.
Minister?
Grant, thank you, Deputy. On the issue of retention, there is a draft retention framework being trialled at the moment in a number of, I suppose, the Tusla regions where the retention issue is most significant. And I think you've identified there are some areas where the retention issue is very significant. There's others where it's not. A turnover in social workers about it's 7.3% at the moment across the organisation. But I think there are variations there, and I suppose it's probably some regions are regarded as tougher and maybe have built up issues over the years with case backlogs and the like. So as I say, this pilot scheme is being undertaken at the moment to look at supporting the retention of supporting retention within areas. And look, if the Deputy wants a note on that at some stage, I'd be happy to do so. I just want to recognise what you said about the move to mobile working across TULSA. It was done extremely quickly across the organisation. I think about almost 80% of the organisation were easily facilitated in working from home, and I think that it should be recognised the organisation responded in such an effective way. I absolutely agree with the issue raised by the Deputy as regards the reliance on the private sector. I think the Deputy has raised it in PQs with me on a number of times in the area of foster cares. It's also an issue as regards private residential care as well, and that is one of the reasons why the growth in residential care generally is one of the reasons why we see a significant overspend in Tusla's allocation this year. The Jeyes, the government auditing economic evaluation service, has just completed a report on the use of residential care, and particularly the use of private residential care. It's literally just been done this week, so I've only scanned over the initial headlines. I haven't gone through it in detail yet, but I think that's going to be important in giving us and giving Tusla guidance on how we deal with this particular issue. Private residential care, it's demand-led. If Tusla have young children or young people in an extremely difficult situation, vulnerable, or perhaps because of maybe criminal issues or something like that, in gang-related issues, they need to be placed in secure and safe accommodation, and it has to be found, and that's one of obviously the core reason here, and the complexity of the cases that Tusla are dealing with is growing all the time. As regards fostering, I absolutely take your point, and I see that the chair is wearing her Tusla fostering campaign badge there, and I think that was last week, and Tusla is constantly looking to recruit more foster carers, but it does a particular week every year, and I'm certainly happy to support that as much as possible. We do have 91% of children in care are in foster homes, and that is a good figure. I'd like to get it higher, but it should be recognised that the vast majority of children in care are in foster placements. We're looking at a number of kind of innovative measures there. I think the Deputy put in as regards fostering in the travelling community before, and we're looking at a particular scheme to help foster parents in the traveller and Roma community, so children can be fostered in more appropriate settings. As regards I take the point on the measurements, and look, we can certainly feed that back as regards the measurements of, you know, success in terms of the year and the best use of our resources. I'm trying to make sense of some of my notes here. You indicated as regards Bob F, Better Outcomes, Brighter Future, so that's the national strategy for children and young people, and that ends this year, and we'll be bringing forward a successor strategy next year. I had a meeting with the Advisory Council about 2 weeks ago now, and I think we started talking about the initial steps towards the drafting of the new process. I think we want to maybe bring in the initial set of new responsibilities in the department, because I certainly think some of the issues to do with direct provision, with LGBTI+, with traveller and Roma community, that can perhaps feed into the new Bob F strategy. But I'm looking forward to having the new strategy published next year. And as I mentioned to Deputy, I'm hoping to have the new child poverty reduction targets set out in the new strategy.
Thanks, Minister. Deputy Ward.